Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. We're cranking up for a Monday, a slow Monday, cold Monday. Here's a rule of thumb. I've lived east, south, west, Midwest, not Chicago. I actually lived in St. Louis. Not during the 1904 World Series, though. Did not eat dog with James Robert Amok and his band of 1,200 Filipinos. But I know from living on the East Coast that you get lulled into thinking that it's going to be an early spring, or that spring is here, right? And in fact, it's not here. In fact, our music has stopped. Why did our music stop? Our music just stopped. It's oh, here it is. Here, there it is. It's one of those days. But I know from living on the East Coast that you get through March, or you get to March, and you think, oh, spring is here, right? The last day of winter. But no, you always have that last week of March where the Arctic blast comes back, and sometimes there's snow, and sometimes it's just that blast of cold, and you see people who are out in the street, doing the TV news in New York. They've got their gloves on, or they're in Washington, D.C. They got their gloves on. I called a friend today who is in Idaho, and he said, "Oh yeah, we got some snow today. Oh, it's melted off already, and it's even cold here in California. So I'm trying to warm up." Anyway, hello to you. It's Emil Guillermo, Emil Amok to you. This is our Takeout. Emil Amok's Takeout, our takes on all things considerable. We do this show live Monday through Friday because we can. And coincides with stuff I write on the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund blog, which I understand they're having a hard time cranking up too, also there in New York. Not related to the cold, but I have a new column out that I'll talk about the white ethnic media. The white ethnic media copying to the idea that it is a white ethnic media. And then let's see what else. Yeah, I mean it was a fun weekend. Oh, I'm going to talk about the New York City Fringe in a bit. I found out something new. They're going to put up images from shows from the New York City Fringe up on Times Square. So Emil Amok, lost NPR host. It won't be this image. It'll be another image. But lost NPR host Wiley Filipino vegan trans dad will be up in Times Square. How exciting. Sometime in April. Hopefully in time for the opening, April 5th. April 5th it opens. Maybe it'll be up April 3rd. I don't know. They said, hey, you need to give us an image. So I put together an image. Not this one, but this is from the webpage where you can go see Emil Amok, lost NPR host. Wiley Filipino, vegan trans. I explained the Wiley Filipino part. If you saw lost NPR host, yeah, you might say it's a similar iteration, but there are new aspects of the show, especially the vegan trans dad part. Oh, yeah. What's that about, Emil? Got something to share with us? Yeah, I think. And I did a run in Fresno, and people liked it in Fresno, the little bit that I did. So I'm sure they'll like it in New York. So get your tickets at frigid.nyc. Go see Emil Amok, lost NPR host, Wiley Filipino, vegan trans dad. It opens April 5th, but it's on all different times. And you can, in fact, see the times if you go to frigid.nyc. We're on April 5th, which is a Friday, April 8th, a Monday, April 13th, a Saturday, April 19th, a Friday, and the 21st, a Sunday. All different times. You're just going to have to book your tickets at the frigid.nyc site. See, there is. Los NPR host, wily Filipino vegan trans dad. Like I said, I've been using Fresno as my new haven. You know, like usually shows before they get to Broadway. In this case, off Broadway, they go to New Haven, and then they come to and then they come to Broadway. Now, in my case, I go off Broadway to off Broadway, and I think it'll be a good show. You'll like it. Part of the proceeds go to part of the profits, I should say, I'll donate to ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, on the occasion of their 50th anniversary. Their big 50th they're going to have in May. So ALDEF has been good to me, has been good to the community, a way of giving back. So go get your tickets. Once again, the show, Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, wily Filipino vegan trans dad, at the New York City Fridge. Go to frigid.nyc. That's the website to go get tickets. See what people are saying. See, DC Metro Theater Arts about my performances say charismatic, they say. Manhattan Digest say comical and often profound observations. More so than in his podcast. And it's a 59-minute show. Get your tickets. Once again, April 5th, Friday, all different times. So sometimes it's going to be like 9:30 at night. Sometimes it's going to be like 5 o'clock. So you just have to go to the calendar. April 5th, Monday, April 8th, Saturday the 13th, Friday the 19th, and Sunday the 21st. Get your tickets. They are going slowly. No, they're going. They're going. And I hope to see you there when I'm in New York. See, I discovered now one thing. You go through the old archives of Emil Amok's Takeout. I discovered my swoosh. Which is like it's not a gun blast. It's like a page turner. A flip. When you see on the TV news when they flip the page and they go. See, there's a backwash too. Little what they call a they call that a transition. We are transitioning. So I must say that Emil Amok's Takeout. I went through something I wrote for NBC News years ago, 2015. Wow. That's like 9 years ago. And for the NBC Asian America site. And in my bio, I said I was working on these Amok monologues, for performance. And what do you know? 9 years later, I'm doing these Amok monologues. And as I say in my new column on the ALDEF blog, over the last few years, going back to maybe 2016, 2015, I've taken my columns and turned them into springboards for my comic memoirs that I've taken to the stage. And the newest iteration are these live Amok monologues featuring a new story about my conversion therapy as a trans dad. That sounds really, Emil? Really? Really? Well, you can see the show for yourself. New York City starting April 5th. And go to frigid.nyc for tickets, as I said. So the column has been very important because I first began writing the weekly Emil Amok columns in Asian America, or on Asian America, in 1995 in Asian Week, a now defunct publication that at its time was the largest English language publication geared toward AAPI in the US. A pan-Asian publication. And no matter what Asian you were, it covered you. And I had the lead column there since 1995. And when that publication folded in 2010, I began writing my weekly Amok columns on the ALDEF website, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. And now it's been almost the same amount of time at both places for a combined period of nearly 30 years, which is hard to believe, but that's, I mention it simply to indicate the state of journalism, how much journalism has changed in that time, especially in terms of the ethnic media. The ethnic media was always separate from the mainstream, serving audiences that felt neglected by the white media. I was writing my columns for Asian Week all the while working in mainstream media, television, radio, newspapers. And funny how now I've done 15 years at Asian Week, about 14, 15 years at ALDEF on the website there. And now it's like the thing. I write about Asian American issues in the ethnic media. And as I said, it's always because it was separate from the mainstream, and it's become the place where Asian American audiences, they go to find stuff about themselves because they won't find it in the white media. If you didn't see your black, brown, or Asian story, because it's not just Asian ethnic media. There's the black ethnic media and the Latino media. If you don't find your stories in the mainstream, well, you can find them there in the black media, in the Asian media, the brown media. And that's always been the case. If it's not in the New York Times, you can get it in the ethnic media. But now, I was reading this morning, our country has grown more diverse, and all the media has now taken on the condition of the ethnic media. The perfect mirror that I had hoped to see in mainstream media is becoming a pipe dream. Instead of trying to serve all, journalism has become fragmented, communicating to specific audiences that exist in what have been identified as news bubbles. I guess they're kind of like silos, but they're bubbles because they're like bubbles over a community or over a demographic. And that's the latest take by Axios, which since its inception has dealt with the changes in journalism and American life in its own way. Axios has established a more intellectual USA Today meets Cliff Notes style that it brands smart brevity. Of course, I subscribe to Axios. So I'm reading Axios this morning. And wow, it seems that in our current divided America, diversity is too polarizing to create a mass audience that sustains mainstream media. Profits are smaller than greed demands. So the mainstream is discovering that fragmenting into these news silos or these news bubbles, well, that's the only capitalistic thing to do to survive, right? So for its bread and butter, the media is going for the niches among whites. It's an unfortunate term because profit is now the arbiter of truth. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, you're only going to get your media because only the media outlets that can be profitable are going to stay in business. And now, if you're searching for the media to provide the truth, that's what's going to be the arbiter of truth. Well, this is an organization, this is a news publication that stayed in business. It's got to be truthful because everyone else can't afford to be in the media. It's too fragmented. They can't make enough money. So if there are no one set of facts that we as Americans can agree on, the news media will now gladly serve up whatever its audience wants. That's sort of like the new thing. Not what it needs to know, whatever it wants. And it's the mentality that has sustained Fox and Newsmax and One America. One is right, the other writer still. This is the new news environment for an algorithmic America. And it only seems worse in an election year because we now have these narratives so many narratives to choose from, all claiming to be truthier than the other. And the truth can be customized just for your group, because each demographic, organization, class, age, religious sect will have its own views, its own news, its own sources that it prefers and relies on. So we are closer and closer to the day when, yes, not only are you entitled to your own opinion, but you're also entitled to your own facts. I mean, this has got to be a detriment to journalism and to our democracy. But when you're in survival mode, no one's thinking that deeply. They're just thinking, what can we do to put it out, get an audience, get advertising to that audience, get paid, stay as a viable capitalist media source. I mean, that's what it's about, right? What's true when you have so many different sources, so many other people putting out things to say, hey, this is true. Well, what about your truth and my truth? We'll just have to debate till death, I suppose. Maybe literally. Now, mind you, we're talking about reported news. I'm not talking about opinion, the analyzed facts, which have always been separate from straight reporting. Now it's all together. You can't tell, right? Even the reported facts stay in their bubble. They're truthful to a point, to a degree, and people only read within their news bubble. It's all together. And this is a new journalism landscape. It was not the diversity in news I imagined when I started in the biz in the 70s and went into the mainstream, first in radio, then TV, then newspapers. But I should have anticipated that this change would be coming. I mean, I ultimately found my calling writing opinion columns on race matters, Asian Americans, first in the mainstream, writing op-eds for newspapers, all in the mainstream, but then in the ethnic media. But as society has become more diverse, as I said, mainstream news media seems ripe for an ethnic media approach of its own. This is what Axios wrote today. America is splintering into more than a dozen news bubbles based on ideology, wealth, jobs, age, and location. And a glaring thing I noticed, a glaring omission, Axios didn't say race. Why? Well, because this is the breaking up of white media into the new white ethnic media. Oh, this is the same thing that myself as an Asian American journalist used to practice. I'm still in the Asian American ethnic media. We've always seen the mainstream as being exclusive, not inclusive of us. So what have we done since we arrived in America? Asian Americans, Chinese, Japanese, Filipino. We've been forced to publish our own newspapers, our own media. And now, just as America has evolved, it seems like all of media and journalism seems to have changed also, but differently than expected, which I think is too bad, because the mainstream was once seen as our common ground. What Axios is saying is, in an America where there is very little common ground, so much division, well, this is what news has become. What we thought we had in common through media is now, in Axios's words, shattered into a bunch of misshapen pieces. I mean, that's the media now. And it's not just, they're going beyond saying social media has replaced traditional media. They're saying all of media is shattered because we choose to live in The old term was silos. The new term is news bubbles, like little news communities. We talk to ourselves. You know, a lot of journalists like to talk about local news. I mean, this is our city. But now it's gone beyond that. Our cities are divided. And now really we have these ideological bubbles. We have all these different kind of news bubbles, age bubbles, demographic bubbles, ideological bubbles. But as I said, Axios didn't talk about race because that's always been the ethnic media has always been there, right? I mean, I write for a black publication. I've written for different kinds of Asian publications. There's a big South Asian publication. There's India Currents comes to mind. The Hookabay is a Japanese American paper. I write for Aldef, the website. The Daily Inquirer, the Philippine Daily Inquirer, is a Philippine paper. The ethnic media, that we know how things are separated. Well, now the white media is the same way. And Axios is saying that. But they've separated the ethnic, the race from everything else because they know they're just divvying up the white media. Shattered, they're quote, shattered into a bunch of misshapen pieces. Frankly, I'm still holding out hope for mainstream media orgs that still value being the comprehensive source of truth. Democracy's perfect mirror. We need that perfect mirror. We can't just leave the media in shards of glass. Democracy demands a perfect mirror that we hold up and say, there we are. There's our news story. There we are. We show up. That was journalism, right? That was democracy. That's what I hope for, but it seems like I'm in the minority again. Anyway, it's a sobering thought I woke up to when I get my email, let's see what Mike Allen and Axios is sending me today. And I get the one big thing talking about the shattered media, the fragmented media. And it just dawned on me, oh, wow, white media is discovering what ethnic media has found all along. If you don't see your story, make some of your own in your publications. And now we're all fragmented in the mainstream. It's going to be up to the main journalistic stalwarts. Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post. Who is going to be in this landscape the paper of record? Who's going to be, this is the arbiter of truth. And it shouldn't be, the arbiter of truth is whatever publication has the most ads or whatever publication can afford it. But it costs money to cover news. It costs money to be so comprehensive, to be everywhere. Look at all the newspapers that shut down their bureaus, that shut down original news reporting, that got smaller. And now we have these smaller organs, these niches that make up or that fit in a news bubble. That's what Axios is saying. Sad, because what happens to journalism mirrors what happens to our country. And if our country is, or if our journalism is split up, dare say, so will our country. Well, let's hope not. No, that's something that I woke up to and I thought about all morning. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Well, I discovered my swoosh. So quickly, I put that aside because I'm thinking about Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez Day is March 31st. I'm speaking in advance of Cesar Chavez Day in San Francisco at Glen Park Rec Center, 76 Elk Street. I never realized it was on Elk Street. Boy, don't eat elk. If you know it's good for, don't eat elk. A lot of problems with elk, not even farm raised elk. And hunter's delight, no. Lots of potential of bad meat. Mad cow. Remember Mad Cow was spread through elk? Anyway, 70 Elk Street, Glen Park Rec Center. I'm speaking in advance of Cesar Chavez Day between noon and 1 on Tuesday, the 26th. And if you're in San Francisco or close by, come on by. I'm not giving they say I'm giving a lecture. It's not a lecture, it's a talk. I've spent most of my last 10 years reporting on Cesar Chavez's union rival, the Filipino-American labor leader, Larry Itliong. Just pointing out the fact that Chavez didn't do things on his own. He was led to the strike that made him famous, the 1965 Delano grape strike. Now, I'm not there to criticize Chavez, but I'm merely there to expand on what people know about the 65 grape strike and to talk about how Chavez and Itliong really needed each other. I mean, Chavez was far from perfect, but he knew when to listen to Larry Itliong and when to merge their very different approaches to move civil rights and labor rights forward. And in some ways, to see how these two differing leaders could get together is maybe an example of how to find common ground in our divisive America today, maybe even in the world. I mean, Itliong smoked cigars, drank, was a meat eater. Chavez, a vegetarian, a meditator, practically a saint. And yet, they both needed each other to achieve social justice for Filipinos and Mexicans in the fields of California. So that's what I'll talk about. It's a short talk, just like 15, 20 minutes, a little Q&A. But I get into Larry's story and how Larry and Chavez connected, and then I'll tell you how it ended up. Chavez gets his day, gets a national monument, and Itliong only now is beginning to get the recognition as the labor leader who came up with the idea of the United Farm Workers and striking for table grapes, not just in California, but throughout the United States. So I think it's an interesting talk. I mean, I'm playing it straight, just talking about some of the reports I've done in the last 10 years. And it's all in advance of Cesar Chavez Day, which comes on March 31st, which is there's probably no better day for it to happen than on Easter Sunday, because we know the kind of spiritual guy that Chavez was. And I talk about that. So that's happening. If you're in San Francisco or nearby, Glen Park Rec Center, 70 Elk Street in San Francisco at noon to 1. And there's going to be vegetarian food served, and it's all free. So come on down to the Glen Park Rec Center. One of the places where I used to play as a kid, I was from the Dolores Park area, and so I would be part of teams from Dolores Park, and we'd go up to Glen Park and play those guys, and usually beat them. I mean, Glen Park wasn't known as a great place for for sports. Although they did have a little baseball diamond. I played several times there in our, I guess they were the San Francisco Rec League, right? Which is pretty competitive for the city. And then I think, did Glen Park have a football team? I don't think they did. They might have. And then they changed. But because I was part of the Mission Vikings, Pop Warner football. Huh. But one thing Glen Park did have, they had a gym. And so I'm going back to the gym there. And I was terrible in basketball. I had terrible games. Basketball. But good games in baseball and football and soccer. Glen Park. That's tomorrow between noon and 1. And consequently, I probably am just going to be recording tomorrow's show because I'll be otherwise engaged. But definitely check it out. Cesar Chavez. I'm thinking about Cesar Chavez a lot, you know. He was a dog lover. He had two German shepherds. And in many ways, he was as strong a proselytizer when it came to animal rights and vegetarianism as he was a trade unionist. Although I don't think Chavez was vegan. He was a non-meat eater, but he was not vegan, which means he probably ate cheese. No. Can't all be perfect, right? Not all perfect. Anyway, Cesar Chavez Day, it's a preliminary event on the 26th. I'm speaking. There'll be food. I'll be talking about all the things the farm workers did that were good, and also some of the things that you don't know about Cesar Chavez. So, a full picture, you know, I'm not trying to like, I mean, he's already pretty much hoisted up there as an American. I do say he's likened to a saint, or practically a saint. He's a spiritual man, but not perfect. No one is. No one is. All right, so that's happening there. What else are we doing? All right, I think that's about it. I mean, we talked about the Fringe. Oh, I went to see Carrot Top. I know. R.I.P. Gallagher, right? Actually, there's a nice homage to Gallagher. I don't want to spoil it for you because it may be the only good thing in the show for many of you. But it's worth seeing. I mean, Carrot Top he's engaging, but at this point, he's kind of like judging from the age of the people who are there, kind of a nostalgia act. But he's still bringing them into to Las Vegas. He's still like, you know, top 5, one of the top 5 residence acts in Vegas. I remember when I was, last time I was in Vegas was a while ago. I mean, to see a show. I mean, I usually go to see relatives, but when I went to see a show, I saw George Wallace, not the white supremacist, but the comedian, who now is in Hollywood working on a show. But George Wallace was funny, but it's hard. You go to Vegas and to do shows there. I know sometimes it gets to be a chore, I think, because there were times when I was watching Carrot Top and the crowd was laughing, but I don't know how genuinely funny he was. Like nowadays, I mean, after you've seen a lot of comedy, sometimes you need to be shocked into laughing, you know, like, so when I see people who are overtly just taboo and a lot of times it's the black comics or the really nasty white comics or the all deaf, ALLDEAF DEF comedy folks. Sometimes they'll get me going. The last comic I really just laughed out loud was, I think, Earthquake. Is that, yeah, Earthquake. A Chappelle devotee. But anyway, I saw Carrot Top, and it was good, but not. But maybe I have to be in Vegas. Maybe that's it. You got to be in Vegas to appreciate Carrot Top. Okay, okay. Well, I got to play the swish. Of course, play the swish. Hey, my show once again, Emil Amok, Lost NPR host. Go to the frigid.nyc site and check out Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, wily Filipino vegan trans dad. Emil Guillermo goes amok as he considers all things in a comic memoir on being American Filipino. Sex is everything, from his father's colonized past, NPR, Harvard, and finding out the true nature of his offspring's gender identity. One audience member said it was like John Leguizamo's Latin history. Latin history for morons, only uniquely American Filipino. So check it out, all right? Frigid.nyc. And the dates again, April 5th, 8th, 13th, 19th, and 21st. Tickets at all different times. It's not like an 8 o'clock start. It's all different times. You got to go to the calendar, check it out, see which ones work best for you. That's the show. Frigid.nyc is the website. All right. All right, that's it. And check me out tomorrow at Glen Park Rec Center in San Francisco. My little talk on, if you're in San Francisco or nearby, my little talk on Cesar Chavez. Check out the Aldef blog for my latest column on the white ethnic media. And that's it. Hey, we like to close with a little loving kindness. It works. It just works. Whenever you feel down, send the love out toward others. It comes back twofold. There's a way to do this so that you really maximize the feels. Like you think of someone that you think of somebody you don't like, someone you're remote to, and you're trying to send them that loving vibe. Then you think to someone who's distant, and think of someone who's close to you. You think of someone who is sort of neutral, who you don't really stop and think about that person. And then you think about the sentient beings, the animals. And by thinking and sending love their direction, it comes back twofold, threefold, fourfold. The power of meditation. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal kita.